Hello, I'm Justin Boyd.
Hello, I love milk.
Hi, I'm Brittany Pacheco.
That was freaky, George. But I'm Frank Cooper.
Yeah, the milk bit. Pretty creepy. And I'm Nathan Hale, and we are the Watchers in the Basement.
Yes, we are. We're the Watchers in the Basement. And welcome back to another fun-filled episode of the Watchers in the Basement. We are going to talk to you today about the latest episode of the Amazon Prime series, The Boys. Before we do that, I'm going to throw it to my good friend, Brittany Pacheco, and have her talk about how you can not only watch this podcast like you're doing right now, hopefully, but how you can also listen to it. Brittany, take it away.
You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts, thanks to Anchor.fm. We're huge fans of Anchor, so thanks a lot, Anchor. Don't forget to subscribe and give us a 5-star rating because that would help us out a lot. And although we are a small podcast, we're a proud one. You can also follow the Watchers in the Basement on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can like our latest video podcast and hit that notification bell so you can be the first to find out the latest upload from us. And to help grow our audience, don't forget to use hashtag #WatchersBasement when sharing our podcast.
Okay, thanks, Brittany. So, guys, let's get to it. Let's get to the episode this week we're talking about. It is Season 2, Episode 6 of The Boys. The title of the episode is The Bloody Doors Off, which, I don't know if you'll notice this, but the titles they don't really have a whole lot to do with the episode, I don't feel like. You know what I mean? Like,
no, they don't, but they do have to do with the comics.
Okay. Yeah,
So
they correspond with the issues. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so I'll read the show description. This is from Amazon. Also, the Amazon descriptions, like they're well written and they're I mean it's good stuff, but it doesn't really tell you a whole lot about the episode. So here we go. The Bloody Doors Off. The Sage Grove Center is dedicated to caring for those struggling with mental illness. Our compassionate doctors and counselors provide personalized services to help patients live their best life. If you or a loved one need help, please call the Sage Grove Center today at 1-800-122-8585. Sage Grove Center is a proud subsidiary of Global Wellness Services, which is a proud subsidiary. Man, subsidiary is tough to say. A proud subsidiary of Vought International. So there we go, guys.
Okay,
So,
I've got a quick question. I've just got to interject.
Yersh.
Did anyone call that number?
Not
No.
it.
I feel like that's a miss on our part. I'm just saying. I feel like that's a miss.
Okay, I'll dial it now.
All right, let's do it right now live. Here we go.
Put it on speaker.
Yeah, we'll do. 800-122-8585.
I wonder if we found an Easter egg.
Your call cannot be completed
Aw,
as dialed.
no
Please
Easter
check
egg.
the number and dial again. No.
That's what we like to call bullshit.
Well,
Okay.
actually, after what happened in this episode, maybe they're not open.
They're closed. Yeah, they're closed.
Yeah.
Probably for renovations, I bet. Right?
Yeah.
Ah,
Yeah. They've got a lot of doors to replace.
Yeah. Well, maybe the bloody doors. So
Yeah.
maybe the title does fit really well with the episode.
that makes a lot of sense.
So guys, let's get right to it. Gonna kind of go scene by scene the way we kind of old school way we used to do it. We get a lot of stuff about Frenchie in this episode, a lot of backstory. And the episode opens and it's 8 years ago. And Frenchie's with his friends. He's with Cherie and Jay, who we hadn't seen before, I don't believe. And he's talking about the greatnesses of the Golden Girls. So I'm going to quickly ask y'all, did you watch the Golden Girls or have you watched it? And if so, which one's your favorite Golden Girl?
Bro. Motherfucking Blanche, dog. Bro, bar none, bro.
It is a layup question. It's a layup question, but
Like, what?
nonetheless, yeah.
I've really haven't watched the Golden Girls, but I would identify as Betty White because she's gangster AF. And I mean, for those who are watching, we're gonna have a little guest here and there, furry little guest. This is Luna. She just turned 1. She's my baby, and she makes a lot of noise. So sorry.
Yep. George, Golden Girls.
I've never seen it.
Oh man,
Yeah, I'm out of the loop on this one.
that's unfortunate. Nathan, what about you?
I think I saw it a few times back in the day. I don't really remember much about it. I do remember Blanche was pretty amusing. She
whore.
seemed really
Yeah.
like improper, like it was how I remember. Just yeah, but I don't remember much about the show.
Mister, what did you say?
I said she's a whore because that's the character that she was. I mean,
Okay, I have no idea what the show's about.
in a good way. I don't have anything against it at all. No, the Golden Girls is one of those shows where, like, I was a kid and we only had 3 channels. So, like, we had NBC, ABC, CBS. And so, like, anything that was on primetime TV, like, I saw it. So, I was definitely a Golden Girls watcher when I was, like, 8 or 9 years old. And my favorite character probably was Betty White's character, Rose, because she was, like, this kind of naive podunk, this naive person from like this podunk place, like in Minnesota. And she always had these like weird stories and weird stuff. And I don't know, it's a good show. So, it's a classic show. It's a classic song. I mean, do you want to sing the song? It's the end of this episode. They sing the song.
Yeah,
no one wants
they
to
do.
sing. All right. Missed opportunity. So back to the boys. I know this is a train wreck of the episode, but we're just going to go with it. We see Sherry and is it Sherry? It's Sherry. Sherry and Jay, yeah, and they're prepping for a bank robbery with our guy Frenchie. They're doing some drugs and stuff, and we hear about how Frenchie's like he's dealt with a lot of soups in his day. He fought off a soup called Behemoth. He dealt with Cold Snap, Mal Chemical. I mean, to me, like, I don't think there were a whole lot of Easter eggs in this episode, but I think the mentioning of those other characters probably was for me. What did y'all think about this opening scene with Frenchie and his friends and this flashback and
I
what
thought,
was
it,
going on?
I thought it was cool to finally get a backstory on Frenchie. I think we finally learned his real name, which is Serge. Serge?
Right.
How do you say that in French? Like, is there like a
Serge.
Serge?
Serge.
Yeah. So I don't know. It was just pretty cool to finally learn something about Frenchie and like a lot of his backstory, and we finally learned how he finally he stopped watching Mallory's grandkids for like 30 minutes or whatever to go check on his friend, and we finally found out that reason, or it was kind of like his fault that they died.
Yeah, it was. He was supposed to follow Lamplighter, who we get a lot of Lamplighter in this episode, and
Yeah.
he left for he was following Lamplighter at a party, and he gets this call from Cherie that hey, this Jay guy is overdosed, and they need for Frenchie to get there as soon as possible. So he has to leave, trailing Lamplighter
Yeah.
to get with his friend or see how his friend's doing. And Brittany, what'd you think about that kind of plot point this episode?
I mean, it seemed like in season 1, it seemed like there was a really like good reason why Frenchie didn't stick with the plan, because that was something that had issues with Frenchie. I'm not going to work with Frenchie because he doesn't stick to the plan. And while Frenchie relates Cherie and Jay to that of the Golden Girls, like they're a family and they're tight and what have you, I understand the need to be there for your friends and family and whatnot, but it's like, how come Cherie couldn't take care of Jay in a way? Like, if they all were kind of doing drugs, it's like, do you think they'd be familiar with trying to, I don't know what the right term is, but to make sure that the guy doesn't OD or something like that? I don't know. To me, it just wasn't like.
Shot.
Thank you. It just, to me personally, and maybe I'm just being really critical, it just didn't seem like good enough reason, because then at the end, when Frenchie's finally explaining the story to everyone, he says, uh, Jay lived, but I never saw him after that day. And then he died a few months later from an OD. So it was like, it was all for naught. You know what I mean?
Well, there I personally kind of have to beg to differ to say that was all for naught. None of them are prescient. Like, he couldn't have known at that time that A, Lamplighter was going to kill anyone. He was just simply following him. And B, he didn't know that, you know, saving his friend 3 months later, he's going to die of an overdose. Like, those are things that one could not know. They could guess maybe, but they certainly wouldn't know. So I think that's why in that scene I really appreciated we learned that. And then you hear Mother's Milk, MM's telling them, you know, like why didn't you tell us? We'd let you off the hook, because they understood that they're their own. The boys are their own kind of family, their own golden shower girls in this case, probably. And I can really see and understand why they would forgive that situation, because they'll throw themselves out and they will, in a moment's heartbeat, as we see in this very episode, a little foreshadowing here of where we're going with what happens with Huey, and Butch is saying, screw them, they're on their own, we got to help him. So while they bail on the rest of the boys, it's an understandable for them, because a single life of any one of them is worth more than anything else. So I really kind of liked that scene in particular.
Nathan, you took the words right out of my mouth in the response to why Frenchie left. And I bring, I get your point, like with Cherie, he's in calm police or going to the hospital. But at the end of the day, it's easy to be rational in a state of like fear and just being scared. And the way that she called Frenchie was pleading to him, I don't think that was the first time that one of them OD'd. So I feel like, you know, when you're a drug addict, it's easy to overdose, and it's easy to fall into that trap of addiction. And a lot of times we have other drug addicts around you, aka enablers. That's what they do. You know what I'm saying? And that's Frenchie's little family with Cherie and old buddy. So I get why he left. Like, and I love how the show, like Nathan said, did the example of like with Huey, Starlight, and Butcher, how Butcher left the situation regarding the hospital. So it's like when it comes to friends and people needing help, you're gonna drop everything at a drop of a hat for your friends and family.
Yeah, no, I get that. It's just, I guess, because the sense of time is kind of lost in this show. It's like, how long would it take Frenchie to get from point A to point B? And you know what I'm saying? It's
I will say, Brittany, in defense of your ire over that situation, like, I agree. Like, I thought the same thing at first. Like, why didn't she just do it? She's right there. But then the way they showed her, I kind of got the impression that, and it would make sense since she was with him, he OD, they were probably both using it at that time, and she probably didn't trust herself to do it correctly. Is my guess there. But it's a good observation all the same, and worth questioning.
I think you could tell, like, Frenchie's kind of a fixer for a lot of things, you know. Like, I kind of agree with Brittany's point, but now that y'all have mentioned that, I understand what you're saying, because, you know, it takes us to the next part of the episode where Frenchie is removing Starlight's chip from her shoulder. And I don't know about y'all, but that chip, that's a pretty good sized chip inside of someone. Like, that's you know, Vought used that to track her down or whatever. And I wonder, go ahead.
But even to just use whatever little mini saw it was to get through her skin, it's like, you know, with these soups, it seems like they're virtually indestructible to some degree, because it looked like Frenchie was struggling to, you know, break through her skin. And it might not be like diamond or whatever like translucence was, but still, it's like, it kind of made you sweat a little bit.
Well, it's interesting with this show, and that's a good point. I don't know which of the soups are indestructible. You know what I mean? Like, because, you know, in this episode, you see Butcher, he gunned down one of the test subjects from a Sage Grow person, 3 shots to the chest, the guy's dead. And, you know, Starlight, he was going to shoot her with the same gun, you know, in season 1. And I just don't. I guess they don't really explain like their powers. Like we know that Superman, you can't shoot Superman with a gun. It has to be like a kryptonite gun. And I assume Homelander is the same way. You can't just shoot him with a gun. But other supes they shoot with guns, and it's like I feel like Lamplighter, you could shoot him with a gun. You know, like he has the power to, you know, use his lighter and, you know, project fire. But
So like when you look at comic books in general, comic book heroes, typically what I found is those who have super strength of some sort tend to, in the comics, also be somewhat invulnerable, and it likely has to do with the fact that you'd have to have increased bone density, your skin would have to be tougher in order to withstand the stress of lifting that much weight. It has always been the logic, I guess, behind why the super strong are also super tough. Even Spider-Man, who's not as tough as, say, Superman, but he's still able to take a lot more of a beating than a normal person because he's kind of stronger, but not to the level of, say, Superman. So I think that's kind of how they justify, if you will, the logic behind that in superheroes, if you could call it logic.
Right. I mean, I guess like I don't expect them to like say, okay, this one you can shoot, this one you can't, this one you have to hit with, you know, splash them with water or something. Like I don't think they're going to give us like a game plan of how to kill these superheroes, but I would like to know a little bit better of like who can be, you know, who can be killed and how they can be killed, or just more of a broad sense, I guess.
So speaking of someone who is not indestructible, is the presumed thief in the alleyway where Homelander and Stormfront encounter. And so, George, you want to talk about this scene?
That was so. That guy was basically like begging for his life, just like, hey man, like just send me to jail, like it's okay. And then they start making out, and Maeve starts like grabbing his junk in front of him, and it just got very weird from there. And she's like, he presses his head against the wall while he's grabbing it. It was very disgusting, and his brain just explodes at the same time that he explodes. Probably, I'm kidding.
Frank, did this kind of give you like not Jamie, but Cersei Lannister kind of vibes when she, you know, she leaves Septa Unella to the mountain and, you know, goes and like does things with her twin brother Jamie? I mean, it was like it was a turn on.
I was thinking of a different Game of Thrones scene. To me, it was synonymous when Joffrey died, and they're in the Septa Baylor, and Jamie and like Jamie's tearing up that sister pussy all over Joffrey's corpse. That's what it reminded me of. It was deranged. It was crazy. It was hot. It was sick. That's what I got from watching the Homelander scene. Like
it was hot.
He was like plowing this Nazi lover right next to a caved-in body of somebody's head. Like I was like, bro, this is magnificent TV. Like I've never seen a show go this far left. I thought it was because it really explained the demented nature of their relationship. Right, that one scene signified how sick those two individuals are and how they're singly made for each other. It was excellent. I loved it.
And I think to that point, just so we can kind of keep going through this episode, where you see the dynamic of Stormfront and Homelander, because you know Homelander squished this guy's head with his glove, right? So that means he's got blood all over his glove. Well, while they're screwing around or whatever, they're like putting their fingers in each other's mouths, and you have the blood all. It was just gross. It was crazy. But then in the next scene, where you see Butcher and Kimiko are watching an interview with Homelander and Stormfront, you know, they're just ha 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 ha, you know, oh, she's the biggest prankster, and you can see her kind of touching his thigh, and he's kind of like, you know, stop that kind of thing, and Butcher's like, they're fucking, and it's like, yep, it's crazy, right?
And Kimiko, like the look she gives, like the nod she gives is so awesome. Like, I mean, obviously she doesn't speak anything, but she's such a great Karen Fukuhara. She's such a great actress. Like with her expression, like her face, and just the way she reacts to stuff it's really It's a really great part of the show.
Absolutely.
She seems to have developed more. Like her character obviously has developed a lot more, and I love that they've given her a lot more personality to shine through this season. So yeah, like while we're talking about Kimiko, the boys are visited by Starlight, who, you know, as we just previously mentioned, her chip's been taken out, so she's completely safe, I guess, in a way, to be amongst them without, you know, hopefully bringing any harm. And Butcher's just really like an asshole to her, you know? I mean, Nathan, like, it goes without saying, Butcher's really got it in for Soups. Like he just doesn't like Soups whatsoever.
Yeah. So the moment she shows up there, you know, you have a moment of tension there in their hideout as Kimiko kind of faces off with Starlight. And then the tension's broken as she rushes in for the hug, like kindred spirit here. And then it's immediately juxtaposed by Butcher's reaction of, "Oh great, what the hell are you doing here?" And it was I enjoyed the contrast of the moment, because it gave you another piece of how Kimiko has felt, because she's felt isolated in some ways because she understands enough of Butcher's just straight up prejudice against Soups, and she's a Soup. So that moment, that kindred bond was there for that moment, kind of like reinforced how bigoted he is towards Soups, and that she's had to deal with that. And you know, of course, Butcher being Butcher, he uses his typical bossy manner to demand that, you know, she now join them because she can be chum in the water, as she tells them about this grove, a safe grove. What, I can't remember what it's called now. The asylum.
Sage Grove.
Sage Grove. So she informs them that there's something going on there. So now they have a lead, and Butcher's like, "Cool, you're coming along. Wait, what?" And it's really just because he wants to throw her under the bus, or as he puts it, be chum in the water when hunting sharks. Because if they get caught, they're going to be more worried about her than them, being that she's the $1 billion baby of Vought, if you will, as he puts it. So very, very cool scene, and how we see a dynamic there, and we see a little more actually of Kimiko than we at face value you might realize. Butcher's Butcher, and we know where his stance is, and the same could be said for Starlight. But that moment for me, that hug, was the most poignant moment of that scene.
I agree wholeheartedly.
You know, I think Butcher, though, he's too tough on Starlight in this part, because like at this point, like, she's on their team. She's the one who revealed to MSNBC or CNN or whoever about the Compound V. So like, you know, she's on the team. So, I mean, she has superpowers. So like, why not take advantage of that and embrace her? Because obviously she hates Vought as much or more than he does. You know,
one word: Huey. As we learned last episode, I think he is Butcher's canary. Right. And we've seen in season 1 how he feels about a relationship with a Soup, and how that can be very bad for you in a health point of view. So I see that as almost like an overprotective brother not happy about a relationship that they feel is unhealthy. So that's kind of why I feel that way, because obviously with Kimiko, he's kind of moved past that, and maybe it's just he needs more proximity and time around them. As we see later in this episode, there's a grudging respect beginning to grow there from Butcher, but we'll get to that a little later.
So, Frank, I wanted to talk about another chum in the water, and that's the Deep. Homeboy, you know, he's part of the Church of the Collective. He was visited by Queen Maeve in the previous episode, who basically says, you know, if you want back in the 7, you're going to need a woman to back you up and basically say you're not a piece of shit. You think I'm a piece of shit? Yeah, you are. So this next scene opens with a Brave Maeve Pride Bar commercial. Thoughts? Go.
So do you want to break down the scene of
Oh, just tell me what you thought about the whole like Brave Maeve Pride commercial. I mean, she was
It's-
outed by Homelander, and
Yeah.
now marketing is trying to make a big deal about it.
I'm starting to think that Vault's PR department isn't that good. Like
Sounds strangely familiar.
yeah, I'm not gonna say any names, but yeah, so when Homelander outing her a couple episodes before, it's like this is Vought scrambling, trying to like spin this negative into a positive, but it looks more negative with them trying to spin this. And the Pride Ball commercial was just like, not only is it corny, you are basically making a caricature of Maeve, and I think it's a weak attempt to trying to create inclusion with the LGBTQ community, but it was all bad. But
Because Frank, you can't be proud on an empty stomach.
that was horrible. What was equally horrible was Deep walking in right after that commercial, and like basically saying, because I in that scene, like Maeve is trying to find evidence from the plane wreckage from season 1, and Deep finds with his school of guppies and halibuts, and they find like this.
There's some rowdy boys.
I think it's so cute. I'm sorry, I have to take a quick second. Like, I like him better than Aquaman. I'm sorry, like the connection this man has with dolphins and fishes, and I think it's adorable. And
he has a real intimate connection with the sea.
It gives him like an adult,
Real intimate.
yeah, it gives him like an adult Walt Disney vibe with like his connection with animals. Like it's kind of dope. But I digress. So he finds like this camcorder deal, like this, I don't know, like a selfie stick with a camera on it, and he lets Maeve know, like, you know what, this is all that we found. I'm gonna keep looking. I'm not even sure if it works. But Maeve basically tells him like, okay, well, I'll take this, but not worth to anybody, or you won't get into the 7. So I think the show did a great job of like drawing that scene from last season and still connecting the dots of Maeve trying to get out of the situation with Homelander and her love. So
Yeah, that's very well put. And so we're back on this set, of course, for Dawn of the 7, right? And A-Train is with Ashley.
Woo woo.
Thank you, Nathan. George, A-Train is getting a freaking lit anthem.
I heard that song. It was god awful. I just want to go back to Deep real quick because I thought it was hilarious. I forgot what he called his I think he called the fishes his associates or something like that. It's like, yeah, one of my associates found something in the current or something.
yeah, he did.
I thought that was so funny. And then they look at him, and I think Maeve looks at him. It's like you're talking about the fishes. They're like, what are you talking about? But that was funny. And another funny part was when he ran into A-Train. The Deep ran into A-Train, and he offered him a Fresca, of course.
What's in the Fresca? That's what I want to know.
I don't know.
Yes, thank you.
I'll try it.
And I've really wondered, like, just a quick aside on that one thing. Is there literally something in there? And there may be. Like, this is VOD, it's pseudo sci-fi being superhero stuff. So there could literally be something in the Fresca. But even if there's not, it is very much analogous with drinking the Kool-Aid. And that's their Kool-Aid. Like, if you fall in with the group, you're drinking the Kool-Aid. So either way it works. So even if it does have something, they're still literally drinking the Kool-Aid, which was analogous, which goes back to Ken Kesey and the Kool-Aid acid tests and the bus back in the 60s that was Kool-Aid spiked with LSD. So, yeah, they're literally drinking the Kool-Aid. And I am wondering if this Fresca Kool-Aid is spiked.
Speaking of that, Justin, how's your Fresca?
I don't have Fresca today. I'm back on the LaCroix train. I'm a LaCroix boy again. It's hard to see,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Hold it in front of your body. It'll show up.
Yeah. There you go.
There
See,
we
you
go.
gotta know this stuff when we're doing sponsorships, guys.
That's true. That's true. No, I've never had Fresca, but I don't know if it's the show's kind of making me want to try it. Honestly, I don't know. We'll see. I don't know. Is it still even in production?
Oh, it's not the show. It's the Church of the Collective that's trying to get you, Justin.
Very religious. That's very
Very.
true. Yeah, I can't wait.
Very. No, we were talking about this earlier. Fresca is actually a Coca-Cola product, I believe. So it's, I don't know if it's still being manufactured, but I mean, it's a legit product for sure. So yeah, but the Deep is actually trying to help out A Train, who, like I said, he's getting his own anthem. Ashley says it's just lit, and he's like, yeah, it's dope, all right. And you know,
Did
all
you
that
guys
kind of-
did you guys see a kind of parallel between the anthem and the Pride Bar, Maeve's Pride Bar? Like there's definitely seemed to be a parallel between those two things.
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure. So yeah, now but the boys are on their way to Sage Grove Center in Pennsylvania, and Kimiko's kind of a cool pair of brass knuckles that she bought with her quote unquote blood money, as Frenchie put it. And again, this shows how much personality Kimiko now is exhibiting at this point. And because Frenchie says something sly to her, oh, this is what you bought with your blood money. And what does she do? She holds up her brass knuckles and kisses it, or not kisses it, but blows on it, and just kind of, you know, dust off your shoulder or whatever. And she's basically saying, fuck you, you know? So I thought it was great.
Yeah, and it says bossy. Did you mention that? It says bossy on it.
I'm not sure if I did, but
Yeah.
it's bossy.
Yeah, so I thought that was kind of funny. And then the brass knucks come into play later in the episode. We'll get there in a second, though. So let's get back on the Homelander Stormfront storyline. So Homelander is like desperate to get Stormfront to come into his trailer on the set, and she turns him down. Says she has a meeting with her social media guys at the tower, at Vought Tower. And we find out that instead she's going to Sage Grove Center to check on the test subjects. But I think it's funny how Homelander reacts. He's definitely like he's smitten with her. I think so, and he desperately wants her attention, and she's kind of acting like she doesn't care. And so he had flowers ready for her in his trailer. And he goes into his trailer, and he gets so mad that she's not there that he lights his trailer on fire. And later on, they show that like they have the fire trucks and everything, and they're putting out the fire. And
Hold on though, Justin. There was a little card on the thing of roses that were shaped in a heart. Okay, who writes "Thanks for a great day"? XO, your name. Like, who writes that?
Frank said he's done that for a couple of girls.
Lou Reed does.
Frank, is that all you, bro?
I don't send flowers. No, I send something else a little bit more friendly. So I'll leave it to that.
Edible arrangements.
It's edible, all right. I guess you can call it an arrangement. I mean, that's fine. I mean,
So there's
it's
often,
edible. What are we talking about?
So
like,
there-
Takes a while to kick in.
there's often a lot of references to songs and the like in the show. And the reason I mentioned Lou Reed is there's a song by Lou Reed, and I'm trying to remember the exact lyrics and the name of the song at the moment. But it's basically "Thank you for a great day," "Thank you for a beautiful day," or something like that. And this guy goes through this series of things of this day, and then towards the end, and this could be just me and my interpretation, but it always seemed to get kind of dark towards the end. Like maybe this was a date with the guy from You. So I don't know. I don't know if that was intentional on their part or not. Probably not, but I at the same time, I wouldn't necessarily put it past them either.
unfortunately, You is a Netflix property. So
Oh no, I'm not saying.
crossover.
Yeah. Oh,
I
right,
got
right.
you. I got you.
Well,
I got you.
But we can always hope because maybe it'll get bought up.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed.
I hope that
Boys
Jeff Bezos
is
gets
You.
richer. Yeah.
The new series coming. Oh, speaking of new series, a little aside, are you guys excited about the coming new series, the spinoff?
I feel like it's a little bit too early. Like I feel like you should let the boys kind of play out more before you already planning a spinoff. Like I think that's like The Witcher's doing that too. And I'm like, The Witcher's not even like good. You know, at least The Boys is good. The Witcher is kind of like homeless version of Game of Thrones. And the fact that they're already getting a spinoff too is just, it's strange. It's like let's pump the brakes.
I still enjoyed that show.
What's that?
And I still enjoyed that show. I thought The Witcher was good. I liked it. It was very slow burn.
Yeah.
Very, very slow, but I enjoyed it.
Yeah. Once it got to like episode 3, then it was like, oh, okay, this became very, very interesting. So yeah. But we're getting off topic. Let's bring it back to The Boys. Let's talk about how Starlight helps out Frenchie, Kimiko, and get into the Sage Grove. Through using her powers, she's able to bypass the presumably electric fence, and they're able to get in. But you know, Butcher's got a gun on her, and it almost looked like he was about to pull that trigger because he did click off the safety. And then it was like a sense of, you know, realization that I guess came over him, and he's like, no, I better not do this. And then, you know, whatever. But talking like what we said earlier about how he kind of, I mean, obviously he has an issue with Soups, but he's okay with Kimiko, but not okay with Starlight. And Starlight calls him out on it, which I loved. I loved how she said, you know what, this is long overdue. You know, what is your problem with me? You just can't stand me because of what's in my blood. And in a weird way, the way that Butcher and Starlight kind of bicker, and Huey's all like, guys, you know, stop this. I feel like it's in relation to those who are children of divorced parents in a way. Now, I don't know this for a fact, but it's just something that you see, you know, played out in the TV shows, movies, what have you. And you know, Huey's just stuck in the middle because obviously he does love Starlight, but he also really cares about Butcher, and they both care for him. So what do y'all think about that whole dynamic? Anyone?
The dynamic between Butcher, Starlight, and Huey.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, like Nathan said, that I think Nathan said this, the big brother mentality that Butcher has. Like, he doesn't show much love and towards Huey, but you can tell that he loves Huey. But I feel like it's conditionally only based on like what Huey does. Like his hate for Soups really resonates and precedes any type of intimate relationship he has with anybody. And I think the final nail in the coffin when is it Becca? Is that his wife's name?
Yeah.
When Becca rejected him because he wouldn't accept her child, I think that was the nail in the coffin as far as like his hate for Soups. Like the one woman that I actually love and care about would not be with me because I can't accept her son. And I think that resonates with every other Soup around. And I think with Kimiko he's so outnumbered in how the whole Kimiko situation, because you know Mother's Milk, Frenchie, and Huey all vouch for Kimiko, and they know that you know Kimiko could be a hired gun for them. Like she's a Soup, and they need that power on their side. And it's so interesting that he hates Soup so much that he would turn back help from a Soup just because he hates him so much. It's kind of sad, and like I don't know, I'm really conflicted with Butcher because like he's on one hand he screams you know teamwork and Spice Girls and we need to work together, but on the other hand it's only like that if Soup's not involved, and you can't have it both ways. You have to have one or the other. But you know, I hope that you know as the show goes on that you know his love for Huey will supersede his hate for Soups. But right now I think his hate for Soups is leading that charge. I don't know if I answered your question. I'm just rambling right now.
Rambling is good. We just have to have conversation.
So
But,
one thing I'm just like while you were talking there, it made me realize something, Frank. But is it one, maybe 2 episodes now we've not seen or heard from Becca or Homelander's kid?
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I think it's a direct correlation to, and correct me if you guys think I'm wrong on this, but in direct correlation to he's found someone else to become infatuated with. Homelander has. So he's spending more time with Stormfront and thereby not as worried about seeing his son having this surrogate wife if you will, in the form of Becca. So I'm sure Becca's probably really appreciating Stormfront about now. What do you guys think?
I think he's a deadbeat dad now. Like, damn, 1 minute you want to be in your son's life, next minute, mommy's being mean to me, so I don't want to be part of my son's life. Like, come on, you coward. I would never say this to his face, by the way. I'm just saying.
He'd laser you, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think that if you've seen what happens in the episode that comes out this week, Homelander and Homefront or Stormfront, they visit Becca and Ryan. So Ryan's not out of his mind just yet, but it's more about how we don't really know the time frame where the show is happening. Maybe it's months ago they last saw the kid, or maybe it's like yesterday.
I don't think it's been more than a couple weeks. I would.
Yeah, probably a couple weeks. I'm sure they're happy they haven't seen him, but unfortunately they're going to see him some more. So because the kid has powers and he knows the kid has powers, and that's what it's all about. And not to spoil later, but like Stormfront's looking for superpowered people to kind of join her army, and that kid seems like he'd be a perfect draft pick. So, Yep.
So what's going on in this asylum anyway?
It feels like to me there's like an X-Men kind of vibe to it. Don't y'all think so? There's sort of an X-Men kind of deal to it, and that's kind of apropos because one of the X-Men actors is Lamplighter.
Yep.
He's working in this Sage Grove Center, and as he explains, that he's basically there to clean up the mess. What Vought is doing with Sage Grove is they're testing Compound V on these patients. And they've learned from the testing is that infants handle Compound V the best. So you give an infant Compound V, the person grows up and has powers and, is super powerful. You give it to an adult or like a teenage person and it's hit or miss. You might get a freak, you might get a soup, or you might get someone who just literally explodes.
A super freak.
See, this
Super
is why,
freak, yeah.
Freak,
Yeah.
But Justin, this is what I don't understand about Vought in this Shady Grove, Sage Grove, whatever it's called.
Yep.
So for a fact that it's a crapshoot when you inject a grown ass human man or woman with this Compound V. It could be Homelander, it could be a guy with a 75-inch long dick. We don't know. Like, and I'm only saying that because
It actually happens.
Actually does.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
So
Poor
if
MM.
So if you're Vought and you know that it's a crapshoot and that you're probably just wasting Compound V on a grown ass human being because you don't know what you're gonna get, why not just stick with the original plan and just create infants that you've been doing, like Homelander, like all these other superheroes?
I got this one.
It's like the safest route. I mean, is it
Frank,
less cost effective?
Frank,
Yeah.
let me ask you this.
Gotcha.
How much would you personally pay for a serum that would turn you into a superhero without negative side effects of possible death or anything like that? What would you pay? What would anyone pay? They want to increase their market to the world and everyone in the world. So their bottom line is money. Well, they may be darker intentions we don't clearly know yet, but even if there aren't, if money's the bottom line, think about how much money they could ask for. You could turn anyone to a super. When you got to consider the supers in this world are seen as the biggest pop stars, the biggest athletes, like they're the top game. What would you pay to become the top name, if you follow? So that's I think they're going at.
I'll drop my Disney Plus. I'll drop Disney Plus and go for it. Like that $12.99 or $5.99, whatever I'm paying, I'll pay for it. But I don't think it's money. I think it's time. Like they want, like you give it to an infant, you have to wait till they're 16, 17, 18 years old for it to come to kind of fruition. Whereas
Not true.
they're
Because
looking-
remember Deep said he was about 9 years old when he started noticing his powers come through.
that might have been when he got the shot or got the V injected.
No,
right? We don't know
think
that.
So.
No,
it
okay.
takes some, but I mean, I don't know if it's there's again not a real science around Compound V that we've seen yet.
But I think they're looking to build a super army super fast, and I'll let Frank go ahead and say what he's got to say.
And that's what I was gonna say about Justin. That's a good point. I don't think it's about money. I don't want to get too far ahead of our analyzation, but like, in my opinion, it's not really you're not super if everybody else if damn near the whole world's super, then what's so special about you then? If everybody else has the same abilities, uncanny abilities, then it's not gonna be much of a money grab.
Who said it's going to be affordable? They could put a $1 billion price tag on it, and you got your elite 1% who now made themselves into superheroes.
Yeah, but you're creating. Okay, if I'm a billionaire and I buy a super serum from the Compound V, then how can Vought control me? Then I'm no longer about property. I'm on my own. And if you're Zuckerberg or all these other billionaires, you basically give them the power to be to corrupt this world even more. Vought can't control everybody. I'm sorry, it's going to be impossible. Yeah, you're rich. Yeah, you'll make money off of it, but at the same time, you're probably creating a nuclear warfare that Hitler undreamt. You know what I'm saying?
Well, that argument would work both ways though, because if you make a super army, how are they going to control a super army?
You create chaos.
I mean?
That's my whole point. Like you are creating chaos, and I think the Sage Groves example is what happens when shit goes left. Like, I mean, I know we haven't got too far ahead, but like, if 2 superheroes go rogue and it turns into 10, 15, 20, 100 superheroes go rogue, you're creating a shitstorm. And
Well,
I don't.
again, like I said before I went into the money, I believe there is a darker ulterior motive to Vought, which we just haven't had revealed. But you were asking why would they do this? With just the information we have, that's why I was saying money straight away has been their bottom line up until now. Everything's been about money. So that could be justification enough to do it. But I agree. I think there's a much darker, more sinister. I mean, they wouldn't have made the originator Vought a Nazi if they weren't going to have a darker intention than that. We just haven't had that revealed yet. But we need to move on to actually what's going on in the asylum at this point.
So talking about a dark kind of sinister character, we encounter a subject that goes by the name of Cindy, who has some extreme powers. I mean, incredibly extreme powers. When the boys recognize Lamplighter and vice versa, they get into an altercation where Lamplighter basically, with his pyrotechnic powers, blasts open Cindy's door, and she comes out, and she's got this very, very kind of low-key kind of persona, but she is wicked powerful. And Nathan, when we first watched the first episode of this season with Raynor and how Raynor's head exploded, it was very reminiscent of what Cindy's powers were, because she literally has her hand out and she clenches them like this, and whoever she's using that towards just splat.
Yeah, this power has been seen before, but not in comics that I'm aware of, and that's the I squish your head, I squish you, I squish you.
Awesome.
She's incredibly powerful, right?
Oh yeah.
And so because of this power, she is able to release the rest of the subjects, and they go crazy, killing everyone in the facility. It's a lockdown. And so George, Huey and Starlight and Butcher are watching this from afar, right? And so talk us through what happens next when Butcher and Starlight encounter one of the subjects outside.
So basically they let everyone out. My question is that how do they keep track of these, like, their powers, and how do they keep them in control, because she literally opened all of the doors with her powers, right? Like right after she opened all of them, she let everybody out. Why the hell did she do that?
I think the medication. I think they're saying there's certain medication they can take that slows them down. Right. I think so. Yeah.
Okay, I didn't catch that. I was so confused. I was like, why the hell didn't she just do that the whole time? So they're slowing them down, basically.
I think they're using what's it called? Propofol?
Propofol.
Okay.
Yeah. The stuff that killed Michael Jackson.
Yeah,
so, but to George's concern over that, I'm still with you on that, George, because literally the doors come down and she's using her powers, and other guy's floating out of there.
Yeah.
One guy was in there vomiting acid on his bed, as we saw through a camera. Another guy's punching through punching into walls. I'm like, I still couldn't see how they could have kept these people contained unless there was, and because of that video footage we saw, I would have said like, well, maybe there's some weird sound wave or something that's in the rooms and is able to dampen their powers, some weird thing like that. But we're seeing them use their powers in their cells, and she literally had the power to go bye a door. Why couldn't Acid Guy? Maybe Acid Guy's door's acid proof or something. I don't know, but I was a little bothered by that as well.
So I want to pose this to you all too before George goes and explains what happens with Butcher and everyone else. You know how the one thing that Homelander can't see through is zinc? What if that's something that is within the Compound V, that maybe all of them are incapable of manipulating zinc, or you know what I'm saying? Like
afterwards, so that it's not like she wasn't capable. I just don't. I don't know. It was just confusing to me. But how you explained it, as slows it down, that makes sense. But I just want to know, like, how they controlled her to possibly kill Raynor in that first episode. Like, how do you make them do that?
But
that's probably where she got the extra Kraft mac and cheese.
Well, I wonder that too, but it's like, was she always a subject? Well, I guess she had to have been the subject because they were injecting Compound V into. Okay, so continue. Go ahead.
And so that was my only concern of this episode, honestly, that bothered me. But so once they do that and she lets everybody out, all these soups or the victims, whatever you want to call them, the test subjects, some of them are able to get out. And Huey, Starlight, and Butcher are outside waiting. And they encounter this one guy. He's pretty scared. He's like, I don't want them to catch me again, and I just want to get out. And then he explodes. He sets off like an EMP. I guess that's his power or something. He just sets an EMP off, and then Butcher shoots him like 3 times in the chest, and he just goes down super easy. And but once that happens, apparently we learned something new about Starlight, is that she can only use her power when there's energy around her, so something that she can take energy from. And we didn't know that before, and we learned that this time. And they just try to make a daring escape. And by the time they get to escape, they notice that Huey got injured because of the van and the explosion. He has like some metal piece like stabbed inside of him, and they're just trying to get him to safety and save his life.
Yeah, and in the process of trying to save his life, they have to take this guy's car, and
they take more than his car.
They ended up taking his life, but I mean, it's kind of his fault. He pulls a gun on these people, and as he says, it's a stand your ground state. And Butcher tells him, "You can stand wherever you want to. I'm taking your car." So Starlight, tries to get in the middle of it, and she ends up killing the guy using her power. She's trying to. It's hard to explain what she did because her powers, she has like the power of light, like the headlights of the car lit up, and then her eyes lit up, and then the guy goes flying. So, like I said, I don't really understand all the powers, and I don't think we're really meant to.
And like, does she like shock them, or like?
I guess so.
Power, really?
It must be that.
Okay.
But that's the whole escape from that Sage Grove is it's a pretty crazy. I mean, it's a big part of the episode. It's really like it really shows like kind of what this show does really well, because you have these characters that are they're all on a team, but then they get separated and then they go on their own path to get away. And as we said, Huey, he's injured, so they take him to the hospital. Where the other boys, Frenchie, and Kimiko, they're stuck in the hospital. Yeah, and Lamplighter, who's with them, they're stuck in the hospital with Lamplighter, and they're trying to, make it to safety, and they end up in this medical room that has all the drugs. I'm not sure what the term is, but all the
pharmacy.
The pharmacy, yeah.
In that scene, it does beg it made me question the terminology and kind of gave a new meaning to the term choking it.
Oh man, Nathan.
So let's get to it. Let's Nathan basically threw it out there, and so did Love Sausage. So we meet this character earlier in the Sage Grove Center. They pan to this one character. We're watching they're in the control room, and you can see the cells of all these test subjects. And this one guy just has a massive dick. Like it's like the size of his leg. Like
He showed
one
it
of
to
his
a
legs.
horse, and the horse cried.
Right, exactly. And so, whenever they showed that guy in the cell, and I was like, that's obviously crazy, but that's actually a character from the comics. I never thought we'd see that dick in action, but we do. We see it very much so in action as the boys are, they're barricaded in the pharmacy room, and all of a sudden something comes busts through the window, wraps around MM's throat. He's getting choked by a giant dick. And you got to love how Kimiko saves the day using her bossy brass knuckle hand ring, just decks the guy in the face, leaves the bossy indentation across his forehead. And as she lays him out and they get the dick off of MM's throat, you get the refractory period, and you see it go back, into his pants, and MM's like, was that his dick? And then, Frenchie's just like, be a little
don't be so
open-minded or
close-minded.
whatever. Right. That was, this show is a show that shocks you literally every week, probably 2 or 3 times a week. That one right there, I did not see that coming. I don't want to see that. I don't want to see that coming. If you know what I'm saying. It was, it was like a fire hose, like a giant fire hose. And when it first happened, I don't know about y'all, but did y'all know right away what it was? Because I did not know until it
Justin, I am disappointed in you.
no. Because I didn't know the guy. I thought the guy was like dead or something. I had no clue. And then whenever they kind of pan closer, you're like, oh, I see the veins and stuff. I see what we're talking about here.
No,
So,
you would see that one-eyed snake first, and then it's like, oh my God, that is a dick. Yeah, but that was a really, I think you said it well. This show shocks you and definitely pushes the limit and pushes just everything what we deem to be not safe for TV. Definitely not safe for TV, but it's okay. But one thing I do want to talk about really, really quickly with Lamplighter amongst the boys is that Mallory and the boys 5 years prior had invited Lamplighter to kind of recruit him to work for them. And so that's really interesting to me because Mallory had an iPad type deal, and she's I guess swiping pictures and you look good in these. So it's what dirt did Mallory have on Lamplighter to get him to in a way come out and work for her, which obviously didn't happen because he intended to kill Mallory the night that he went to her home, which unfortunately was the night that her grandchildren were in I guess her bed, and that's how they died. So I'm really curious as to see what info did they have on Lamplighter? And then now it just seems that Lamplighter is just more than willing to kind of work with the boys because I guess he feels so guilty about what he's done, but then also how his powers are being used to burn evidence for Vought, right? It's it's an interesting storyline. I'm really looking forward to learning more about.
And I'm with you, Brittany. I hope we do find out what the blackmail is that Mallory had on Lamplighter, because to get him to work for them and to basically Homelander. Butcher tells Lamplighter we want to know everything that's going on at the tower, especially with Homelander. I want to know what kind of power he had, or what they have over him that makes them be able to control that superhero. And then the fact that. Even though they had this power over him, he was going to try to kill her that night. So that whole part was kind of murky. I think that was intentional, obviously. So,
Frank, since you're back with us, talk a little bit about Elena and Maeve's relationship now that Elena has stumbled upon the plane footage that Homelander and Maeve were called to back in season 1?
From the initial scene when I mean, I guess to break down the scene, so so Maeve's in the shower, and she's rummaging through stuff in the in one of the drawers, and she finds that camcorder that Deep found in the wreckage. So she plays it, and it's a father. It's a guy pretty much sending out his last message, because he's going to die. He's talking to his wife, and he basically tells his wife, like, hey, his plan's going down. I don't think I'm going to make it. Please tell the kids, I love them and I love you. And while she's watching that, she's just distraught. And right when the video ends, Maeve comes out the shower, and Maeve sees that Elena has the camera stick thing in her hand, and she basically pleads to Elena, like, hey, I wish I could have done more. This was not my plan. I wanted to save those people. Homelander wasn't having this, but this is our way out. Like, I plan to leak this out to the media, but Homelander does not leave us alone. And while she's pleading to Elena, trying to get her to see her perspective, Elena's distraught. Like, she's like, dude, like, over 120 some passengers just perished because of your decision. And I think she doesn't. I mean, she's been telling Elena how big of a monster Homelander is, but I don't think she really understood it until she saw that footage. And from that footage, you can tell that Maeve wanted to do more, but she was trapped. But I think Elena thinks that, damn, is my woman a monster too? Like, is my girl a monster as well? But you can clearly see in the video that she wants to do more, but she can't. And I think Elena is just processing right now, like, oh my God, like, Homelander is just crazy. Maeve wasn't being extra when she was saying that Homelander is a homicidal maniac. So I think that scene really broke down what Homelander really is. I think Elena really understood that, okay, she's not playing. Maeve is for real about Homelander.
So really quick, guys, because we do have to wrap really, really soon. We have to get to the biggest news of this episode, which we've already been talking about it. Other than the fact that Lamplighter, who was actually going to be killed by Mallory, Frenchie basically pled for his life. But we learned that Stormfront is not only 101 years old, she is Mrs. Frederick Vought, who is from Berlin. She is very much influenced by the Nazi Germany point of view of how the other races were, how can I say, we're basically going to destroy whatever their view was on culture. So she basically pleads to Homelander that you, Homelander, are everything what Frederick and I had hoped for. You're powerful. Everyone thinks basically the best of you, and you're going to lead us. You're going to lead this army of supermen, millions strong, because that is Vaught's true destiny, which is, to me, is just mind blowing. George, your thoughts?
Yeah. To find out that she's actually that old, and that's been her plan since all along. And I think even, I don't know, do you guys think that Homelander was kind of like just like shocked at that? Like what? Like I don't know. It seemed like he was kind of at a loss for words.
Yeah, I agree. He did not. He had a weird kind of reaction because she shows a picture of her daughter, and her daughter is like recently passed, was like 90 something years old or 80 years old or whatever. And he immediately asked her, he's like, how old are you? And she explains that she was born in 1919. And it seems like he's kind of freaked out. But then, like, the more she talks about how, like, the race, the other races are grinding us down, and we need you to be the leader. And then he kind of puffs his chest. It looks like he's kind of down for that.
Hey, there's precedent here, though. We've already seen from season 1 that he's got a thing for older women.
This is true. But in all seriousness, I do want to pose this question to you guys, and maybe this is something we can pick up next episode, because like I said, we do need a wrap. The very fact that with Nazi Germany, obviously their point of view was that Aryan way of life was like the right way of life. Everyone else was threatening, of course. And it goes without saying, Stormfront is clearly very racist, especially towards Black people. And the very fact that Vought right now is led by Mr. Edgar, who happens to be a Black person, how is that going to work out with Stormfront leading, this charge of overseeing what's going on at Sage Grove, and she's working with Vought? Like, is she going to overthrow Vought?
I think so, Britt. You're onto something, because I thought the exact same thing, and I think that she's gonna do that. That's why she's probably, I don't know. Well, but the emails that they have with Sage Grove, like Edgar was emailing her about that, but I think she's gonna like betray him somehow or something. I don't
The
know.
coup?
What if those, exactly, what if it is a coup? What if the Sage Grove are her army that she is behind Vought's back developing to catch up, because she can't wait for a gestation period of 9 to 18 years for them to grow up? The
That
Vought
would make
method.
a lot of sense.
But I feel like Edgar would know about the Sage Grove Center, right? He's got to be informed.
It's not a matter of that, Justin. I think he has his intentions for Sage Grove, and she's going behind his back and using it for her
Okay.
purposes.
Okay.
That makes sense. That makes total sense. Yep.
So, all right, guys, we gotta wrap. I can't wait for tonight's episode of The Boys. I'm so excited. I can't believe there's only 2 left.
I forgot that there was
Yeah.
Yeah, it
I was
comes
like,
out Thursday. Yeah.
episode on Tuesday.
Oh,
Comes out Thursday at midnight.
Sweet.
No, really, it comes out like about 7:30 on Thursdays. That's what I've noticed.
It
on our
does.
time.
Yeah, our time,
Yeah.
7:30 Central Time. Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah. So that wraps up this week's episode, and we'll be back next week to talk about the 7th episode of the season 2. And please don't forget to follow us on social media by searching the Watchers in the Basement. George, how can they find us on podcast services?
So you can find us on any podcast network, Spotify, Apple, any podcast, anywhere you listen to your podcast, you can search us, just the Watcher's Basement, and go ahead and please leave us a 5-star rating. That would help us a lot, help us get out and grow our audience to more people, also to share, and we greatly appreciate that.
And also, when you do share this, please be sure to use the hashtag #WatchersBasement so that we can see all the awesome sharing of our content that you're doing.
Yep, and we appreciate you doing that. So continue to use hashtag Watchers Basement. So that's it. Thanks for everybody, for Brittany, George, Frank, and Nathan. This is Justin signing off. We'll see y'all next week. Bye-bye.